So as the Trump administration edges closer to a decision on rescheduling the good herb from Schedule 1 to Schedule 3, a new petition is instead pushing for complete descheduling. And as it turns out, congressional Democrats have also filed a bill to legalize herb by descheduling it altogether at the federal level. But at the same time, prohibitionist groups like SAM, Smart Approaches to Marijuana, are calling for it to remain Schedule 1 because it's super dangerous, and according to Pete Sessions, the weed is only getting more and more dangerous. But there's really important facts that they don't want you to know, so we're going to shed light on that today.
Welcome back to Capitol Review. The president says that he's considering reclassifying marijuana as a less dangerous drug. The president says the decision of whether to reclassify marijuana is a complicated one currently. It's a Schedule 1 drug listed as having a high potential for abuse and no accepted medical use. The administration is considering making it a Schedule 3 drug, which the Drug Enforcement Administration says has less potential for abuse. If marijuana were rescheduled, it would still be considered a controlled substance and not legal recreationally nationwide. Joining us now is Gretchen Gailey. She's a cannabis advocate and the president of Project Champion. Gretchen, welcome back to Capitol Review.
Thank you for having me.
We're always glad to have you. Your organization has been working directly with the White House.
Yes.
On this, on changing the direction of cannabis. Talk about the involvement and tell us where we are right now.
So we partnered up with a group, Mission Green, headed up by Weldon Angeles, who was pardoned by the president in his first administration for his cannabis offense. And we put together a letter, just a simple letter at the beginning of the summer, sent it off to the White House, asking for the president to follow through on his promise on the campaign trail to reschedule cannabis to Schedule 3. And we also want to take a look at clemency issues and some other things that we think would be common sense cannabis reforms. And the White House, they reacted positively to our letter. And so we've been moving forward and talking to various folks in different parts of the administration about how this could possibly work.
So there are a lot of different groups, a lot of different folks, and a lot of different people in general who have differing views when it comes to rescheduling. Some folks think rescheduling is a good idea and really want it to happen, such as these folks who are urging the president to carry out his promise that he made on the campaign trail when it comes to rescheduling. Now, while there are a lot of folks who think that rescheduling is a step short of what should really happen, which is descheduling, there are some people who think that it's just the first step on the road to the bigger picture, which is having it removed from the list of controlled substances. And that sort of mirrors what we see in this article right here, which says, and I quote, Trump should reschedule cannabis on the way to fully descheduling it, according to Roger Stone. And according to Roger, in America today, no issue better demonstrates the yawning gulf between the will of the people and the paralysis of their government than the cannabis policy issue. And that is true because we have overwhelming support for legalization of the good herb in America. Tons of folks want it to be legalized. But he raises a really good point because he says the chattering class insists that it's an either-or debate. Trump either reschedules cannabis, moving it from Schedule 1 to Schedule 3, or he deschedules it completely. But he says that this framing is actually false. It's not about either-or. This is about progress, and that's what must be done next. Because rescheduling is not the end game, but it's a critical next step. The move will do more than signal a new direction, but it will also unlock immediate measurable relief for patients, entrepreneurs, and state programs. So according to Roger Stone and a lot of people who have that same line of thinking, it seems that that's the first step on the path to descheduling. And while I can sort of get behind that, I think that there are some concerns and I think we need a little bit more. And that's what this new petition actually calls for, because this new petition pushes President Trump to legalize it, not just to merely reschedule it. What we need is a full descheduling.
A lead drug policy group, the Drug Policy Alliance, DPA, has launched a petition aimed at the White House. Their message? Don't just reclassify marijuana to Schedule 3, push it all the way to descheduling. That means fully removing it from the Controlled Substances Act. They argue that rescheduling is simply not enough. Even as Schedule 3, cannabis would remain federally illegal, allowing continued arrests and criminal records. DPA's Kat Packer says only descheduling would truly end the harms of prohibition. This petition is going to be delivered to the White House in the coming weeks, assuming they can gather enough support. So one might ask, why does this matter? Here's why it matters, especially right now. The Trump administration has said that a decision on rescheduling could come within a matter of days or weeks. That announcement has lit a fire under reform advocates and heightened both support and resistance. By pushing for descheduling, DPA is highlighting that incremental change alone doesn't address justice issues. Thousands of people are still incarcerated or carry criminal records even under Schedule 3. So this petition bridges policy and politics. It elevates legalization, often seen as progressive, as a real democratic demand, backed by 80% of support among Americans. That's a big stat.
So over 80% of Americans are in favor of legalization of the good herb. And rescheduling alone is not likely to deal with all of the issues that we currently face. And while it can be viewed as a good first step, what we need is something a little bit more. And as it turns out, that's why Democratic lawmakers have filed a bill to federally legalize herb as President Trump weighs the rescheduling issue. And if you're like me, you may be wondering, why is it now, only now, that these Democratic lawmakers are filing bills to deschedule completely, when they're the ones who actually started the rescheduling process in the first place under President Biden? Well, it turns out that this is not the first time that lawmakers have tried to pass a bill of this nature. In fact, this is the fourth session in a row where this proposal for legalization was put forward.
Yes, Sarah, top Senate Democrats are proposing to legalize cannabis at the federal level, a move that would clear the way for the industry to have full access to the nation's banking and financial systems. The bill would remove cannabis from the Controlled Substances Act. It would also establish a minimum age of 21 to buy marijuana. The catch, though, is that Democrats also want to impose an excise tax on the industry, 10% in year one, climbing up to 25% by year 5. After that, the tax will be calculated based on weight and concentration and be equal to 25% of market value.
I will lay myself down to do everything I can to stop an easy banking bill that's going to allow all these corporations to make a lot more money off of this, as opposed to focusing on the restorative justice aspect.
Now, one key company is already publicly supporting this proposal. Canopy Growth CEO David Klein did say that he is thrilled and ready to work with Congress to establish a well-regulated and adult-use market here in the U.S.
So in a situation like this, where more and more lawmakers are calling for the good herb to be legalized, you really got to wonder, why hasn't it been legalized yet? And personally, I think the answer is pretty simple. Not only do the politicians and lawmakers need to figure out the ways that they can tax and make all the max profits and revenue from this good plant, but they also use legalization as a tool to garner votes. If during every election cycle they bring it up and they say, hey, we're trying to file a bill to legalize the good herb, you guys vote for us so we can push it through. Obviously, a lot of people who want the good herb to be legalized, they're gonna vote because they're thinking you guys are gonna push it through. But it turns out all it is dangling that carrot in front of your face for votes, and they think we are donkeys.
And passing this legislation won't be easy for Senate Democrats. Republicans and some moderate members of their own party in general oppose decriminalizing marijuana, but public support of the idea has changed over the years. Back in 1969, only 12% of Americans were in favor of legalizing marijuana. As of last year, that number is now at 68%. So our question for you this morning, do you think the federal prohibition on marijuana should end? Taking a look at the results so far, 86% of you say yes, 14% say no. Let us know what you think.
So clearly an overwhelming amount of Americans think that the ban on the good herb should be ended. Now there are lots of groups that think differently, and they're spending tons of money to make sure that the good herb remains criminalized. And I want to show you guys that and why they're so scared about the good herb. But before we do, just a quick reminder, if you're getting value from this video, please do like, share, and subscribe to the channel. And if you want to support us further, join the ICANN VIP Bean Club or just buy us a cup of coffee. And if you happen to be a home gardener, try the ICANN Organics, use the code LEGAL, it works on the bundle and the beans.
A new plan, and I'll tell you some high stakes involved in this proposal. We are talking about a multi-billion-dollar a year industry here in California alone, where marijuana, of course, is legal. But for those involved doing business legally here, the profit margin is slim, mostly because the feds still see marijuana as an illegal drug across the country. And that's a problem for a lot of folks who do business here, especially this top businessman who says he doesn't want to show his face, but does want to tell you about what's at stake, what could change if the feds have their way. Listen.
It would completely change our business. I mean, our business right now is held back by so many different things.
That from one of the top cannabis manufacturers and distributors in all of California, reacting to a push by top Democrats in the U.S. Senate to join California and other states in federally legalizing marijuana.
The doom and gloom predictions haven't materialized in any of these states. And as more and more states legalize marijuana, it's time for our federal cannabis law to catch up.
And catching up would give marijuana growers already licensed here in California access to what is now off limits because the feds still see marijuana as a scheduled narcotic.
So if lawmakers know that this is a problem, and it's been a problem for a number of years now, why have they not taken steps to do anything about it? Oh, we need to end prohibition. Oh, we need to make access to banking more available to these businesses. We need to protect the communities that were once affected by criminalization. But where are we right now in 2025? It's still Schedule 1. There's still a lot of folks pushing reefer madness, and there's still big pharma, big alcohol, and big tobacco trying to rally and fight against the good herb. And it's not just some of those big players, but also some of these lawmakers, as well as prohibitionist groups like SAM. And one of those leading voices for criminalization and prohibition saying that the good herb is bad is this guy, Kevin Sabet, the president of Smart Approaches to Marijuana, or SAM. Now, we've discussed this guy and his warped thinking in the past, and the fact that him and his group are spending millions of dollars to ban the good herb across America. And according to him, moving the good herb from Schedule 1 to Schedule 3 will only benefit big marijuana and drug cartels. And because the good herb is dangerous and poisoning kids, he's actually calling on the Trump administration to cancel any efforts to reschedule it. It should remain Schedule 1 because it's oh so dangerous. And right here you guys can see just yesterday Pete Sessions tweeted this: I sent AG Pam Bondi a letter urging the DOJ to reject rescheduling. The data is clear. Marijuana is a dangerous drug that has only become more dangerous over time. We must protect our children from predatory marijuana businesses that want to make them addicted customers for life. So you guys can see the views are skewed, especially on some of these older Republican lawmakers such as Pete Sessions, or just folks like Kevin Sabet with his Smart Approaches to Marijuana group. Now right here you guys can read up a little bit more about that letter that Pete Sessions sent to Pam Bondi and the DOJ. It's absolutely crazy, but everything is right here. And right here is a copy of the actual letter which he sent to the DOJ. And as you guys can see, he CC'd President Trump, so go ahead and have a read. Now I want to show you guys why these lawmakers and big corporations are so concerned about the good herb becoming legalized. But before we do, let's have a quick look at a little bit of back and forth on the House floor between the Democrats and Republicans when it comes to legalization. Have a listen.
Thank you, Representative Perlmutter. Mr. Speaker, I rise in strong support of today's rule. The two bills in the rule provide for important, long overdue reforms that most Americans are in favor of. The MORE Act will reform our federal drug laws to bring federal laws in line with the majority of states which are now legally and responsibly regulating cannabis. 37 states, including the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, have successfully legalized medicinal cannabis, creating a thriving, safe, and legal market for cannabis, creating thousands of jobs and billions in new tax revenue. This is a rare win-win scenario for everyone: government, businesses, patients, and consumers. However, the ongoing conflict between our state and federal laws creates daily legal issues for businesses, banks, doctors, and consumers. The MORE Act will address these problems by removing cannabis from the Controlled Substances Act. This will allow veterans to use medicinal cannabis without losing their VA benefits. It will allow legal businesses to access financial services. It will allow scientists and government agencies to research cannabis, and it will not prevent states from regulating or even criminalizing misuse of cannabis. More importantly, the MORE Act includes a comprehensive package of criminal justice reforms to give a second chance to those whose lives have been upended by the excesses of the war on drugs.
So all these proposals sound really noble, and Democrat lawmakers have been proposing this for the last decade, it feels like at this point, but there's always some form of pushback, especially from some of these older Republican lawmakers. So have a look at this guy who actually pushes back on some of those points.
This amendment would authorize $10 million to the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration to conduct a study on how certain technologies can help law enforcement officers detect whether a driver is impaired by marijuana. Impaired driving is a serious issue that takes thousands of lives every year. Unfortunately, Democrats only want to address this problem after they create it. Legalizing marijuana will undoubtedly lead to more drivers being impaired by marijuana. Democrats want to legalize marijuana and then provide law enforcement with a study on how they might be able to detect drivers impaired by marijuana. Why wouldn't we start with giving law enforcement the resources they need? This doesn't make any sense, and the lack of support for law enforcement from Democrats in this bill shouldn't surprise us. Nowhere in this bill is there any funding for or support for law enforcement related to marijuana. Let's fix the existing problems before making more. I reserve the balance of my time.
So you guys can see how many different issues there are when it comes to this one topic. It branches out into a lot of things: the medical benefits, the criminalization, the justice reform, the clemency, the protecting the kids, the taxes, what's going to happen to those taxes, what are they going to be used for, and also driving while intoxicated. So there are a lot of issues, and despite what you guys think about comparing it to alcohol and intoxication and stuff like that, there are a lot of benefits, and those cannot be denied. And I think that that's why a lot of these lawmakers and big groups are so concerned and so scared about legalization, because it's going to cut into their bottom line. Think about it. Big alcohol is losing funds because a lot less people are drinking as compared to a few years back. Big Pharma is going to lose a lot of profits because a lot of people are no longer going to use those opioids and opiates. Instead, they're going to be using medical herb. And also, Big Tobacco is going to lose out because it's all self-explanatory. No one wants to be smoking those cancer sticks. But don't take my word for it, guys, because have a look at this. CBD has potential to treat alcohol use disorder by reducing withdrawal symptoms and lowering relapse risk. And this is according to a federally funded study. So if the federal funded studies have all these benefits being so clearly shown, why is it not federally legalized yet? Let's have a look at another one. CBD improves cognitive decline. CBD has shown promising results to reduce inflammation and cognitive decline associated with aging, according to a recent government-funded study. According to this one, there's plenty of evidence that the good herb can treat female orgasm difficulties, so why are some states saying no? And I know some of you guys may find that funny, but it's actually pretty serious, because even over in Illinois, they approved a female orgasm disorder as a medical marijuana qualifying condition. But over in Oregon, they rejected it. So there are a lot of benefits when it comes to this good plant, and that's probably why Big Pharma, Big Alcohol, and Big Tobacco are so upset and they're so concerned about legalization. And also why prohibitionist groups like SAM are also so against legalization. But let me know what you guys think about that. Drop it in the comments down below. Let me know where you guys stand and what do you guys think on rescheduling versus descheduling. I know a lot of you guys think that descheduling is the way to go, but if rescheduling is the first step to having it descheduled, would you guys be okay with that, or are you guys still not too sure about it? Drop it in the comments and let me know. Now, you guys may have missed this, but growers are being blamed for poisoning tons of smokers across the US. So if you haven't seen it, check that video out because it's coming up right now.